Some days it feel like the world just won't turn down. It's notifications going off. It's people's opinions you didn't even ask for. It's problems that aren't even yours, but somehow still land on your mind. And then you start to ask yourself, why am I so drained all the time? Because truth is, peace is getting harder to keep in a world that never gets quiet. So the real question isn't just how do you survive? The real question is, how do you protect your peace while still living in it? What's going on, everyone? And welcome back. Today I want to talk about something that everybody deals with, but not enough people actually protect. And that's your peace. Not your money, not your image, and not even your reputation, but your peace. Because you can have everything together on the outside and still feel completely overwhelmed on the inside. And we're living in a time where everything is designed to pull at your attention. Social media is pulling at your attention. People's expectation is pulling you another way. Stress, pressure, the noise, everywhere. So if you don't learn how to protect your peace on purpose, life will take it from you without asking. So the first thing you have to understand about this is you can't protect what you won't identify. And a lot of people say things like I'm stressed, but they don't actually slow down and ask why. So let's break that down in a simpler way, right? There's external stuff and then there's internal stuff. The external is what's happening around you. You know, the toxic environments, the negative conversations, social media arguments. It's just constant noise. And also people projecting their stress onto you. But then there's internal too, right? The overthinking, trying to please everybody, the needing of validation, replaying conversations in your head, just constantly creating problems that didn't even happen yet. And when you mix those two together, it becomes chaos. So you got to start asking yourself things like, what is actually draining me right now? Because if you don't name it, you can't remove it. You know, one of the biggest ways people lose peace is simple. They react too fast. Not everything deserves a response. Not everything commands the need of your energy. Not every situation needs your opinion. Not every battle is yours to fight. You know, sometimes the strongest thing you can do is pause. Because reaction is emotional, but response is intentional. And there's a big difference. When you react, you give away your control. When you respond, you keep it. So ask yourself in that moment, is this worth my peace right now? Because every time you engage with nonsense, you're spending energy that you can't get back. And a lot of people are tired, but not because life is hard, but because they're reacting to everything like it is. So let's talk real for a second. A lot of people, they struggle with peace because they feel guilty about setting boundaries. They think saying no makes them rude. Like, they think that having distance from people makes them selfish, and a lot of people think that protecting themselves means that they don't care about people or situations. But that's not true. Because boundaries are not rejections. They're protections, right? Because you can love people and still limit your access to your energy. You can care about somebody and still not be available all the time. Because if you don't set the limits, people will unconsciously take as much as you can give. And eventually, you'll look up and realize you're drained and they're still fine. So it's okay to say things like, I can't do that right now. That I need space, that I'm focusing on my peace. You don't need a long explanation, just that. So let me make this as clear as possible, right? Your mind is being shaped by what you feed it, It's being shaped by what you watch. It's being shaped by what you scroll and see. It's being shaped by the music you listen to. All that matters. Because if your input is chaos, then your mindset will be chaos also. Because you can't scroll and see negative things all day and expect peace at night. You can't listen to drama, arguments, comparison, and pressure and expect to feel calm on the inside. Sometimes protecting your peace is simple. You unfollow the things that drain you. You step away from constant noise. You stop consuming everything just because it's there. And you replace some of that noise with silence. Because silence, it may be uncomfortable at first, but that's where your mind finally resets. And here's the truth a lot of people don't hear. Peace isn't something that you just find. It's something that you build. And you build it in stillness. That means learning how to sit with yourself without distractions. No phone, no noise, no escaping. Just you. And at first, that can feel real uncomfortable, right? Because you start to hear your own thoughts again, And that's where healing starts also. That's where clarity comes in. Whether it's prayer, journaling, sitting in silence, walking alone, whatever that is for you, you need that moment or those moments where your mind is your mind is not being pulled in 10 directions. Because if you never slow down, you would never really hear yourself. And, I'm gonna be real. There was a point where I didn't realize how much I was carrying mentally. I was reacting to everything. I was trying to stay on top of everything, always available, always responding. And I thought I was just handling life right. but I wasn't protecting my peace. I was just leaking energy everywhere, you know. And the truth about that is nothing outside really changed at first. You know, I had to change how I responded. I had to change what I allowed in. And I had to change what I gave my attention to. And once I started doing that, things didn't necessarily get quieter, but I got stronger inside of that noise. So I'm gonna give you something that I tried, and hopefully you can start that today, right? You know, try a 24-hour reset. Just for, one day. That's it, one day. You know, no unnecessary arguments, no reacting to negativity, you know, limit your scrolling. Take a break from everything that's draining you, you know, and spend at least 10 minutes in silence, just 10 minutes. And at the end of that day, ask yourself, what actually affected your peace today? And what didn't deserve access to me? You know, because awareness changes everything. So I'll leave you with this. You know, the world is always going to be loud. You know, people are going to have opinions. Life is going to have pressure. You know, the noise is never going away. But your peace doesn't have to be part of that chaos. You get to decide what gets access to your mind. You get to decide what gets your reaction. You get to decide what stays and what goes. Because if you don't protect your peace, the world will always compete for it. And it won't hesitate to win. So, that's the episode for the week. If this episode helped you in any way in the effort to help you start protecting your peace, I ask that you share it with someone that needs to hear it. And I have one question for you to answer this week. And that is, what's one thing you need to stop giving your attention to? And as always, I'll catch you on the next one. This is Black Man Unfiltered. Real voice, real truth, real growth.